everyone in podcast land. I'm David.
And I'm Jono.
And this is the show where we ship away, go sailing, and stretch ourselves all the way to the moon. Yeah. It's the Let's Wing It podcast.
And we're going to be talking about, obviously, the latest episode, or latest show on Netflix, One Piece, because we're going to go search for treasure. And
it's the biggest deal on Netflix for a while. It's I've seen conflicting things where it's got way less watch hours, I think in like the tens or 20 million watch hours versus the 40-50 of Stranger Things 4 and Wednesday. But I've also seen other conflicting things saying that it has beaten those in other metrics. Who knows? That's why the writers and actors are striking. We need to see the numbers. But yeah, we're going to be talking about One Piece. Jono, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. As the viewers can see, I have moved again. I
just can't
stop because like the podcast first started at my basement, my old house. Then it was at David's basement, and not basement. Yes. Oh no, yeah, maybe whatever.
Garage.
Garage. Or this current set that you have right now. And then it became what it is like this, but it was a different background. And now it's like this. So I finally moved
slightly different.
So I finally moved into a new place. Right now, it is both scary and wonderful because finally I can set myself kind of roots for at least a year because that's how it works here. Yeah. And now, hopefully enough, I can kind of spruce it up because I got my space. I got a great camera from Elgato and also a wonderful sponsor, Beacon, is making me sound so good.
I love Beacon. The number one, we're going to be telling you about him right now, I guess.
Yeah, might as well.
The number one reason a listener or viewer will turn off a new podcast or video is because of bad audio. That's why this podcast is powered by Beacon Mic. All the features you need are built right into the mic, which makes connecting so easy via USB-C. Gives you the best broadcast quality audio without a steep learning curve and saves you a ton of money from having to buy a bunch of extra gear. Right now, you can get $20 off when you use our offer code WING at checkout.
Yeah.
Check out that link in the description below.
That link, just in case you're feeling lazy and not wanting to click, is beacon.com/discount/wing. And just to kind of add into that, it's like, yes, you can buy a decent mic for like $50. But like, here's the thing with Beacon Mic. And I'm a bit proponent for them because they at least for me, I used to be local. They're in Victoria, British Columbia. They're great guys. It's a USB-C mic that acts like an XLR that has customizable software that you can download for your PC and I think Mac soon. And it just it just makes it super easy. Like I was always worried about how to use mics. And back when I had a PC or soon will have a PC, it was just like easy and simple. They have anti-popping because when I used to do Pokemon streams, I would pop the mic all the time. I know, it's just super awesome and super easy. And it's probably going to be like, yes, you pay about $200+ for a mic. It's probably going to be your last mic you buy. So
yeah, so far I'm very pleased. And it's been so easy. Literally one cable, everything's kind of pre-set up for you. They have, all the filters, everything. And normally on previous mics, I've had to kind of set up a chain of effects to get the best out of it. But this sounds good right out of the box.
I think my next purchase will be a microphone so I can monitor myself and sound good at the same time. But yeah, go check it out. It's a long thing, but no, how are you doing? How are you doing, David?
I'm doing okay. Lots going on. I got pretty sick last week, so I watched a fair bit of TV. So I watched Twisted Metals, which we'll talk a little bit about later. I went home for a bit. I went to Niagara Falls. Did I talk about that on the podcast?
No, but you should have came and saw me.
No, I was only I left here Saturday morning and I came back Monday night. And I think that was the source of my medical issues was something that happened. Yeah. Anyways, but it was awesome. Niagara Falls is the most touristy place I've ever seen in my fucking life. I couldn't believe it. I was shooken.
I mean, there's so many casinos around it on the Canadian side. It's like weird.
Yeah. Well, so the actual falls are nice. It's kind of like, surrounded on the Canadian side. It's a park with like kind of, roads that you can drive. But there's like a little walkway and like a little touristy shop or whatever. Not little. It's pretty big. But then there's the falls and it's beautiful. The falls are awe-inspiring, totally incredible. But a few blocks away, there's like this strip. If you've never been, it's just a strip of like it almost feels like you walked into a theme park where it's like every corner is a haunted house, a mini golf, laser tag, golf or go-karts, ice cream store. Like it's just like the most intensely touristy thing I've ever seen. It was crazy. It was fucking crazy.
So I went to Niagara Falls in late or mid-January for a company kickoff event. This was like years ago.
Okay.
And so it was during winter time. So I didn't really see any of that because all the outdoor activities, obviously there wasn't any outdoor activities. But I did walk all the way to Niagara Falls because it was like 2 blocks away. And
fucking worth it.
Niagara Falls, fucking awesome. It is like the coolest, most wonderful thing. I understand why people love it. And they kind of have like this weird mystical feeling towards it. But yeah, there's so many casinos, especially on the Canadian side. Like you look over to the American side, it's like park and maybe a hotel.
Yeah.
And that's it. But the Canadian side, like, I don't know what happened. Toronto was like, we got to milk this. We got to do it.
I guess so. And it's weird. It's usually the opposite way. I usually feel that America exploits that aspect more. But it was nice. And the best part, my sister paid for us to go to like what's called Journey Behind the Falls. So you take like an elevator down and you get to walk like in a tunnel behind the waterfall and then kind of pop out beside it. And so I got this unique, incredible view of like where the water comes over, and I could kind of see the sky through the water as it was folding. And it was just like, it was really awe-inspiring. And even though there was like tons of people, it's so loud. It's like the most incredible white noise in the whole world. I would close my eyes and just like allow myself to be taken away. And it was great. I really liked Niagara Falls, but we were staying at Niagara on the Lake, which is like kind of a nice, quaint little town. It's like, I would liken it to, Jono, you would like Fort Langley, but it's like a whole town.
Here's the thing. I don't mean to dissuade you on it.
Nah,
so good, like, just imagine Fort Langley and imagine where I live, all the small little towns in this county. I'm not going to name it because I'm going to just dox myself. I've already been like recognized like 5 times, which is great, but also kind of weird at the same time. But like, all those small little like Fort Langley towns, they're all over here. Yep. So like now I'm kind of like, at first I remember moving here and I'm like, oh, this is so cool. Like this is why like hundreds of years. Now it's like, oh, I'm just driving through like XYZ town. And it's like, oh yeah, that's that ice cream place. Like I'm so desensitized now. Anyways. But yeah, it's kind of cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, so I won't stay on the point of Niagara Falls because I'm sure the people that care have heard enough, and the people that don't care, like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Okay. Well,
fucking tell me about One Piece. We'll talk about One Piece.
Yeah.
Jono, tell me about your history with One Piece. You were telling me a little bit about it, and I stopped you before. So tell me about it.
I was talking a little bit about during our wing warm up. That went very long this time because we had a lot of things to say.
Yeah.
So One Piece, I have a very interesting history at One Piece. I was a very late starter to the entire saga of One Piece. And I mean, the people who watch anime, other fellow weebs like me, I started probably after the time skip. Sorry, people who don't understand, but that's how far I am for the people who know. But I do it kind of like this. I will watch a ton of episodes and then stop for a couple years because this show has thousands. Well, I think 15. I think it's a crazy amount.
No, I think it's over 1,000 episodes.
And that's a lot of time. So what I do is kind of like just watch every couple years. So there'll be at least 100 or so episodes because it's a weekly release, and then just wait 2 years. Mm-hmm. And then that. So I'm kind of almost maturing to that spot, especially since now YouTube is just throwing so much One Piece content at me because I watched the Netflix show, like we watched it, and all this history's going on. And apparently the anime right now has a really huge, big event that everyone's talking about. And so I'm like, okay, I've already kind of spoiled a little bit due to YouTube titles. So I'm preparing myself after I unpack everything here to rewatch it. So I'm pretty familiar with the arcs that the show has gone through. And I think I'm probably not a huge expert, but I think I have enough to say that I could kind of, elaborate a little bit more, maybe explain why they did a couple things, because Netflix has a very weird history with adaptations because they killed my boy Cowboy Bebop.
Which one? Oh yeah, they killed that one. Death Note.
Oh my god. So yeah, Death Note was super sad. Cowboy Bebop was devastating. So yeah. So I mean, for me, this show has a place in my heart because I've watched so much. I love every character. I expected to hate it, at least the anime, because my friend kept pushing me to watch it. And there was several times where I have literally bawled my eyes out watching it because it's so emotional and it's so inspiring and it's freaking great. So I had a lot of high expectations for the show. I was very worried, but yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Funny, it's great. We are going to have a great discussion because I have a very different experience. Before the Netflix show, I had heard of One Piece. I had seen, posters of it. I had vague recollections of like the characters on the posters, but like basically zero knowledge at all. But I saw that Netflix had finally, done anime adaptation well, and I was curious about that. And so we didn't even plan on reviewing it. We were just both independently were like, just watched it, and we're like, I guess we should review it. And so I'll start because my opinion is probably less important than yours because I haven't watched all the 1,000. I think what I saw was 1,071 episodes. But what my opinion of the live action is, I loved it. I thought it was so fun. It was so great. It has a sense of whimsy. And I think I'll start with what I think is its greatest strength, and that is the actor playing Monkey D. Luffy, Iñaki Godoy, is the most likable young man I've ever seen on the fucking screen, and I love every second of him, and I was like so cheering for him the second I met him, and like you're just like immediately you're like, okay, he's like a little simple or whatever, a little over optimistic, but he just kind of wins you as an audience, and then you get to watch him win everybody that he interacts with, and it's one of those shows that's like, it's got drama and tension, but it's like there's this core of goodness, and it's refreshing and it's nice in a world where all our media is so dour and so self-serious. Having this just like this joyous boy at the center of this, I loved it.
Yeah, 100%. So here's my take. So here's the thing with live adaptations that I think a lot of people have kind of issues with, and they have issues that, at least to me, are really unreasonable. So I kind of discovered this when I watched the Cowboy Bebop because I had to kind of calm down after I watched it because it was just so shit. I was like,
Jillian has to like,
hold back. It literally was like The Godfather. It's like they murdered my boy. Look at what they did to my boy.
Look how they massacred
we have
my boy.
to kind of understand is like this will never replace the anime or the manga. It just won't. It's just a different take on this. To me, One Piece is like a masterpiece. I really strongly kind of go, don't start it unless you're prepared to go down that hole. Granted, the writer and actor strikes is going on, so this might be actually a really good way to take the time because there's a lot of episodes. I actually watched a couple of episodes and it's just like, I'm like 8 episodes. I've already watched this, but it's great. Cool. But yeah, I really, really like this adaptation, and they did it in a way that I actually had to rewatch some of the episodes because I'm so far in. Luffy is he's fairly still the same. Like he's very optimistic, very like I just gotta find a freaking One Piece. I want to have some friends. I want to have grand adventures. That's his character, period. Like if you watch him, like if you watch the latest episode now, back then, the only thing that's like kind of like weird and crazy is like he's much more powerful, which is awesome. So, I mean, this will never replace it, but how they adapted it, and even for a property like One Piece, I was like, how can they adapt this to make it live action, yet keep it, the spirit of the show is just just keep going, like enjoy life. There's going to be hardships, but you just keep pushing through and you can, or might not succeed, but don't stop trying. Like that's the whole show. Like don't stop trying. And then, Luffy's a weird character when you look at him. He's a gum man. That's what they call them in the anime. And it's such a weird looking power. And there's some instances in the show that make it look really weird. But there's some parts you're like, oh, they perfect. They did it perfectly. They made it look real. Well, not like real, but they didn't make me feel cringy going, oh, what did I just watch? So yeah, characters were, except for one person, perfect. They are adapted the story from Luffy being in the barrel to him fighting Arlong. Pretty great. I do have some criticisms, but I think it's fair. And also, like, the music is pretty good, and the costumes are great. They, like, a lot of the characters look really weird when you actually like think about it, but like how they brought them in a live action was masterful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that it's always a hard balance because, like, I don't think people always are cognizant of the ways that animation and live action content don't share, visual language. Like, it's like when you're drawing a background in an animated thing, it doesn't really have to make sense. Like, it can kind of just like, give a sense of place and, style. Whereas like that doesn't always work in anime. And this show I found felt like anime, like not fully, but like the places don't quite feel real a lot of the time. And there's kind of like this sense of movement and dynamicism that doesn't really, tie you so strongly to realism or reality. But they did a really good job, I think, with that, balancing the two sides and making it feel like, like full of wonder and childlike. And
the one thing that it kind of like, there was some moments where there was a blur of, it feels like, oh, people are cosplaying to that. But then, you kind of just, I had a lot of flexibility on this because the first episode kind of won me in. I'm like, okay, they're not going to nail everything perfectly, and they will probably never will. So you kind of have to be a little bit forgiving. But yeah, but once again, like, Luffy looks exactly 1-to-1. They even give him the right scar. Shanks was great. Rono, Zoro, perfect.
Oh,
it's great.
Love him.
Okay,
yeah, Nami.
Nami. Oh my god. Actually, here's one thing I will say with Natalie, Emily Rudd, who plays it, and one of the directors said something kind of weird. Is he's like, yeah, like Emily Rudd is so beautiful. Like, kept like gushing about her. And she's a great actress. Like, she looks great. She played Nami really well.
She did her job.
It was just like, I'm like reading this. I'm like, ooh, like this director has to be a little bit careful because he could be taken away very kind of creepily.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
So I will say that. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, where do you want to start? Like, I can kind of go on.
I think we should just like work our way through. We can talk about the characters a little bit. Like, let's talk about, I think we both are feeling passionate about Zoro and how great he is. And like, they do such a good job. So when I finished the show, I was like missing it. So I started watching the anime. So I watched like the first 5 or 6 episodes of the anime. And I found it interesting, the little differences in how they present them. Like in the anime, Zoro's already on the cross outside when you meet him. And it's like they changed the order of events so that I think, and I like, maybe it's just because I experienced it first, but I think that the live action actually kind of does a better job of making you like him right
he's
away.
He's kind of a dick. He's kind of a dick
right
from the start with a heart of gold. Like, because like the little girl.
Yeah. Well, I think, the fact that he like so quickly, goes out of his way to defend the little girl and beats the shit out of that guy was great. My one weird question, and I didn't quite understand, was why the fuck does he eat the rice?
It's kind of like he just wants to be like, kind of like appreciation to the girl because it's like she put a lot of time,
but there was a rice ball still on the plate,
like he just doesn't like wasting food, which is kind of like Sanji's thing. It was kind of weird. But yeah, like actually before we actually talk about it, the one thing I kind of wanted to say is like, there is going to be huge differences with the show because when you think about it, when One Piece was made, it didn't have a huge amount of history to kind of go. It's like literally the guy was probably making it up as he went, maybe like 5 or 6 chapters ahead in his head. But also like this show has the kind of awesomeness to be able to go, oh, okay, let's fix some problems. I'm not going to say problems, but there's some things that didn't quite in storyboarding make sense in the manga, or sometimes things drag on for too long. in the manga and manga that happen here. So there is like big things, because spoiler alert, like, you know, the part where the ending of the last episode 8, when Luffy meets Garp or his grandpa. Spoiler, sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen until like 300 episodes in. He actually like doesn't like meet him like until that. Sorry, not spoilers for you, but whatever. Wow. Yeah, because I was like rewatching it because I watched this episode. I'm like, he doesn't talk to him then, and like the part when like he's fighting his grandpa too, like that happens like so far in, and I'm like, that's kind of interesting how they kind of brought him from there to like way in like episode 20 in the anime, and all the way sooner. So like that's the thing is like with this, I'm interested in continuing watching this show as it evolves, because now they have the source material to quote unquote fix or at least adapt it into North American standards and kind of like get rid of the filler. There's like a lot of stuff that doesn't really matter. Like they will take 20 chapters or 20 episodes to just freaking finish one fight. Like the Arlong fight, I think it's like actually in the anime, like 3 episodes, and they actually finish it in 5 minutes. Wow. Which is great. I think that's really good. And also if you actually watch the Arlong fight in the anime, it's so bad. And you watch it in the live action, I'm like, oh, this is so good. They just kind of like made it too silly in the anime. But anyways.
Yeah. No, I think they did a really good job with that kind of thing. Like, 'cause even whatever episode I was at, 5 or 6, it's like, it didn't feel like very much story had happened. And I think like that's kind of, you know, pretty normal for anime, where it's designed to keep you watching, not to get to that point. And obviously with 1,000 episodes, you know, that's kind of the name of the game. But the show, I think, moves at a great clip. It gives you the information you need. And like even the first episode, it's like you get introduced to Zoro and Nami, and they don't like Luffy to start, but like even by the end of that episode, like they're starting to warm up to him, and then, you know, they kind of are forced to work together. You get introduced to Kobe. Like you get so much information, but it never feels overwhelming. It just feels like really well paced out and given out to you in a way where you can still care. And then the next episode, so 2, we get introduced to Buggy. What did you think of the Buggy in the show versus the Buggy in the anime?
I think the actor Jeff Ward actually like nailed Buggy like pretty well. Like he's a pretty insane kind of character. Like he's insane, driven for power. There's a lot of backstory to Buggy too. Maybe I won't ruin it right now, but like, don't ruin it. Like it just like he's like he just wants to get the One Piece. He wants to beat Luffy, and he is going to be kind of like that. Kind of like quasi a little like recurring bad guy, and just like kind of like a thorn to him. And the animated, like the power that you see in the show is exactly representation of his power in the anime. So they didn't really make it look goofy. I when I watched it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. Yep. Like it doesn't look cringe. It doesn't look bad. It is 100% right. And then, and just, you can see like how, like, I actually, no, I just take one step back, is I really like how they use Buggy to show, how bad pirates can be. Because he took a whole town hostage, which is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, and he ransacked the whole town before, and like he's so narcissistic, and it's all this show about him, and like he, you know, even the little jokes about like he's the light on him,
and he's that's his character. That's his character.
So I liked him as a character.
100%.
No, I like it. I thought it was good too. It like kind of reminding you of some of like the little details. Like it's kind of the first time you see how Luffy eating the devil fruit, it makes him vulnerable to water. And I thought that was an interesting, good little thing. But it's also, you know, his crew that hasn't, you know, pledged allegiance to him yet, they come back for him, and it's like the kind of the first moment of like, things are going good. Things are going good.
I mean, like all the characters, I'm gonna butcher his name. I'm so sorry if you're listening. So sorry. Makanu as Rono Zoro, that we both like. You know, we can talk about him a little bit more. Jacob Romero Gibson as Usopp. Oh my god, perfect Usopp. And I liked how they wrote Usopp in the show, because in the anime and the manga, he's a little bit, when you first meet him, I actually hated him. I hated Usopp. He's like literally the worst. Just get a couple more episodes in anime and you'll be like, oh, I see why Jono hates this guy. But in this, he's good. Like, it kind of makes sense. He didn't really kind of go into his backstory too much more than, his mother's passing, which is a little bit unfortunate. But,
well, the fact that his dad's still alive tells us that they'll probably do a little bit more.
I won't say anything else. It's like, just say anything. But, yeah, I mean, it's just that, is like, he looks great. His nose is supposed to be long, but obviously, like, don't use prosthetics.
Yeah.
They look really bad.
Yeah.
My favorite character, this is my favorite character, is Taz Skylar as Sanji.
Yeah, he was great.
Once you get to the Baratie arc and you see Sanji in the anime to this Sanji, it's like almost 1-to-1. And here's the one thing I was really worried, because in the manga and the anime he smokes, and I was like really hoping, don't smoke, kids, it's just bad. But he makes it look so cool. And I represent Sanji as like, that's like how he ends conversations or ends fights, is that he will like put a cigarette in and spark one up going, yeah, I kicked your ass. And it's just like, so good. I just loved it.
Yeah. No, I thought he was a great character. I like that you like him right away, but you don't understand the dynamic between him and the chef. And then they slowly unveil kind of like the history. And I thought that was really touching and sweet. And you learn to love that pirate as well.
You understand him.
And I was engaged in it. And like that reveal of like, he's like, go to your side of the island and,
that's
eat
one,
your food
that's
and leave me alone.
One what
he
happens
goes over
in anime. They didn't actually change a beat except for Zeph in the anime. On the manga, he actually eats both his legs. And on the anime, you actually see them both on two pegs. Granted, in real world, that'd be freaking a lot harder.
It'd be a lot harder.
Yeah, it's like amazing. The one thing that maybe we should have a little bit of structure. Do you want to talk like per episode, or do you want to talk about anything else?
Yeah, let's work through the episode. So the third episode, they are looking for a ship. They end up at a shipyard with a nice, beautiful ship that has the sheep front, and they meet Usopp, who we've briefly talked about, who brings them to see Kaya, who's like kind of a rich young person whose parents have died and is close to their butler. This might have been my least favorite episode. I felt like right away it was like pretty clear right away, because the show wants you to know that like obviously something else is going on. And I felt like frustrated. I was like, I just get there, just get there. And it was still engaging, and I still enjoyed the episode, but it was the first time and probably the last time in the whole season where I was like, come on, like I know what's coming. Like I know this butler's bad news. Please just like get there. And then I found it frustrating. It was one of those ones where I was like frustrating, where I'm like, I was almost like, I didn't yell at the TV, but I felt like yelling at the TV. Like, God, don't go there. Don't do that. Don't do that. Come on.
The show, that episode was a little bit bizarre, because in the anime, it's a lot more clear cut. And yes, like it does drag out a little bit too long in the episode, at least the anime side. But yeah, this one, it kind of like they didn't know how to handle it, because it felt like almost like Haunted Mansion at one point. They're like, shut everything down and we're going to hunt these guys down. And Mary, he dies and like, we kill him. And actually, here's the one thing that's really weird. This is the kind of overall episodes. Yeah, I'm sorry, getting off track again. You see people die, which the beginning when you meet Rono or Zoro, he like dismembers people. Like he cut the guy's torso off.
Yeah, they cut the dude in half. Yeah. I know. I was not expecting that, and it never really happens anything.
Because in the anime, you just see like people like you see Rono's like swing swords, and you just see people kind of like fall back and kind of like pass out. Here, you see people literally like die, and it's just you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of weird, but it makes sense because it's like, yeah, you cut a guy, you're gonna die. So I would just say overall, like I didn't mind it. I hopefully enough to turn it down a little bit. But how I know it's going, it's not going to. So it's something I do. But the
violence didn't bother me. And I actually saw one of your tweets about it, so I know you feel the same. I found I think episode 3 with the butler and the knife hands, knife hands never look good in real life.
Yeah.
I think in anime they can be kind of cool. But I found it was indicative. The show kind of has a problem with the fights that are including the main characters, and they seem to do a lot of their own stunts and fights. They're kind of just like, okay. They're not good.
Yeah, I will just make a reference. The anime, the first like 50 episodes, the fights aren't amazing. So I will take that a bit. But I mean, like, you're adapting it, those modern fight scenes, there's a lot of choreographers. It felt like the fight choreographer or the stunt people's first day. Because it's like, you can literally see the steps that they're making. And you can see sometimes the actors are hesitating. Yeah. They're like, oh, that guy didn't make his move yet. Yep. I'll just wait. Okay, cool, he made a move. And did. Yep. Like, it's really. Yeah. It was kind of really disappointing because the fights really make the show great. Like, there's some amazing fights coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, none of the hits feel impactful. They don't really seem like they're connecting. Like, there's a lot of, especially early on, where I was just like, oh, this is nothing. There's some later fights, like at the end when Luffy's, fighting Arlong and Sanji and Zoro are fighting all the fishmen. That fight, when it's Sanji and Zoro, I was like, this is pretty good. This is actually a pretty good fight. And it feels like those two in particular really put in the time to get the fight choreography down. And Luffy has some cool like flips and stuff. But like, I don't know. Like, there's just like, there was no fights where I was like really,
which is really disappointing because when it heats up, like the show's like the fights are really memorable and the hits and the art, like that stuff. And it just like, to me, I'm like, okay, I'll forgive it because when you watch the anime, you're like, oh, these fights kind of do suck. But yeah, like it felt like it's everyone's first day, and then it felt like it was literally a YouTube cosplay battle that people are afraid of breaking their props.
Well, okay. Do you know what I've just remembered was I kind of was just like, I would tune out at the fights. I'd be like, oh, this is stupid. But then the first fight of what's Daddy Pirate called? Like the one that Luffy looks up to? Like the Shanks. Yeah. So when his crew, they do the fight with the bandit guy, and it's like, it all happens really quick. I don't know if those are actors or if they're stunt actors or whatever, but like that fight, I was like, oh, these feel like this feels like a fight. This feels like dynamic and exciting and good. And it's just like, it's all moving and like everything's kind of working together. And I have a feeling that those must be at the very least stunt actors, because that felt way more exciting to me than anything. I actually one thing. Well, I'll half with some future stuff. I feel that was the only part that I really feel weirded, conflicted when I saw people dying in that fight. Here's spoiler: like those mountain bandits come into play later, and they all are dead. So I'm like, how are they gonna fix that part? They might just not include them, is my guess. They're pretty kind of pivotal. So I was like, ooh, you guys made a big oopsie. Like, I mean, they're not like 100% critical. They can fix it a little bit, but it's like, oh. Yeah. So the one thing that's interesting is the creator, I can't remember his first name, but Oda, he's very involved with this show. And he was basically, he only signed if he was given executive power and veto power over anything. And so he's very involved with like where they're going, what they're doing, and making sure that things are true to the original spirit of One Piece. So I don't think that it's like one of those shitty ass Netflix things where they kind of just aren't thinking about it. They're just like, yeah, we want to kill people. I hopefully they learned the lesson from The Witcher because they lost Henry Cavill and then, paying attention to the source material. So whatever. But yeah, like, I mean, that was kind of weird. But yeah, like that whole episode with Usopp, the number 3, was okay. They killed Mary, the lawyer, which is kind of weird because he's the one that actually in the other way. I'll just say, like he was the one who designed the ship, made the ship for the Straw Hats, and it was just he's a sheep. Makes sense because he like just dies. So it was kind of weird.
But the actor who played Kuro, once you watch the anime and you watch this, it's very the actor who got Kuro got that character right. Like that's one thing I got really was like, oh, perfect. Like he got the little like adjusting glasses with his palm, like how he like moves and his powers are great. Fights suck, but like everything was pretty well done. But yeah, the episode to me, it was probably the worst one.
Yeah. So thankfully, it's kind of a two-parter. The second part is they fight everyone. The black cat bandits or whatever. That was definitely a holdover from the anime. It's a little bit weird when the two servants are dressed like cats and they fight and stuff. Not a huge deal.
It gets worse.
Then everyone goes on their own way.
Worse.
I believe it. Usopp joins the crew. Kaya kind of stays behind. She's like, I gotta be my own woman. Yeah. And you're like,
she never kisses Usopp in the other part, in the original stuff. So I was like, oh, it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I didn't feel necessary to me. I'm a big fan of close platonic friendships, but Hollywood seems to be a big fan of turning everything romantic. But I always love it when it's like people are like love each other. Like you can love someone and not be in love with them. And so I always appreciate that in shows. So when we get past that, we go to Barati. This is a great episode. I really enjoyed everything there. We're kind of introduced to Luffy is basically forced to confront Arlong and face kind of his limitations and stuff. What did you think of Arlong as a season villain?
I mean, it makes sense that he was a season villain. But the weird thing is, I'll kind of do this kind of structure. Arlong doesn't come into play until Nami's story comes about. So Arlong, at least I'm going by memory. This is like, it's been like 10 plus years since I watched at least that episode, the Barate episode, but I don't remember Arlong or the Fishman ever coming to that part. So it was kind of weird. Granted, it makes sense when you watch it. But I mean, I really like Arlong, the guy who plays him, which is
McKinley Belcher the third.
He did a really good job explaining kind of like issues what fishmen are going through. So for backstory, fishmen are just people who are able to live under the sea. Think of Little Mermaid on steroids. But they're kind of racially persecuted in this world of One Piece. They are kind of treated like slaves, at least at one point. They were super slaved. And actually, no, I think they are still slaves, some parts. And these guys are just kind of using that kind of hate and relationships to kind of like rebel and take it on other innocent people, unfortunately, all the humans. And how he kind of like told the whole story about how he struggles and what he did and what his motivations. Get used to that. Because how they explain every single bad guy going forward, this is the one thing I love about the One Piece is that everyone has the motivations, they have the reasons why they're doing it. And you have a certain level of sympathy for the bad guys as they fight. But ultimately, what they're doing is wrong. And that's why Luffy is up there to stop them. But yeah.
That's interesting. I like Arlong. I like the portrayal. I like that there is a backstory. What I found I was craving was that they would show us some of the things he was telling us, because he kind of, he's like, yeah, fish people are oppressed and they treated us like shit and, we're slaves. But I'm like, I find I would be a lot more sympathetic to him if they showed me examples of how fish people were being mistreated versus, this guy who I've seen be evil and aggressive and violent telling me, because it's like, I don't doubt that it's true. And based on the anime, it's true. It's just like, I think as an audience member, it's more effective when I'm brought in on that level.
It was interesting because, they didn't go that far, but, they stayed pretty true to how they did it. Like you just talked about it, because around like episode 450, 500, they will, I think 600. Yeah, I think it was 600 because there's something big happening. They show the reason why all of this kind of happened. and they actually go super deep into it. And I love how they kind of like mention some things like, they mentioned Jimbei, which is really important later on in the story because he's one of the warlords of the sea.
Okay.
And it just like the struggles and everything. And yeah, like I was kind of hoping they did, but also I understand why they kind of backed off because it's just the fact that like that deserves an entire season, in my opinion. And hopefully enough when they get there, because it's so dense, and it kind of like that one kind of sparks like the super in depth, because they even mention Arlong later in that arc, like we call them arcs in that in this show, and they kind of like mention Arlong and everyone inspired by Arlong, even though those people who got inspired are way more powerful than Arlong, which is kind of funny. But yeah, like it's interesting how they kind of like did it in the live adaptation, bring him pretty early and showing the limitations of Luffy.
Yep. Well, and like we don't see him dead, so he probably, if they wanted to, they could bring him back. But yeah, I thought he was a threatening villain. I like that, he's kind of bulletproof. And so like there's a threat and they have to figure it out. And I thought the whole fish people, the way they look is really good. Like they did a great job on that makeup and prosthetic.
Yeah,
work.
like they didn't like, because in the anime, like the nose of Arlong are super long, but they made it kind of like work. And they portrayed like his voice sounds like really good. The only part I didn't like, and this is like episode 7, is kind of like that party they made. It made it feel like it's a gangster and not a pirate. That's the only part I kind of didn't like. Yeah, it just felt like I was watching like a rap video, like a like a ghetto coming of age movie. It's like, oh, they were just like Compton.
Yeah, Compton.
That's the only part I didn't like. I get it, but it's just like whatever.
That's fair. It wasn't particularly piratey. I feel like I would say that about the entire show. It wasn't particularly piratey.
Buggy was the only like real like pirate. Alvida at the beginning was the only real pirate. And actually, just my only kind of big criticism, like that first episode when I saw Alvida, man, whoever like the actress, I hope the actress is actually really good, but it was just so bad. Like that's when I was like super worried. That first half of the episode, I'm like, this is gonna suck. I was like, oh my god, like she's so bad. Like her delivery was really bad. It's like, oh, who's most beautiful? Oh, it's Alvida. I don't think it bothered me quite as much as it seems to have bothered you, but I definitely didn't engage with that character. So I think like hopefully she can step up vastly different in the next season. So like that's a kind of funny kind of thing. Actually, tell me about this. So this one part that kind of stood out was Mihawk. Do you remember him? Mihawk is the guy who's the really big sword, and it's the swordsman that he fought against Rono Zoro.
Oh yeah! Oh, I'm so excited to see more about him. I feel like they did such a good job, giving you a little taste of him, showing you like a little teaser of his power, and then he kicks the shit out of Zoro. But I just like he's got such a goofy anime aesthetic, like his fucking chest or the cross.
He's like
facial hair and shit.
He's another character that they got 100% right. At least they adapted him. They didn't change anything about him. Like all his powers are the same. The sword is as big, as ridiculous as that. But here's the thing: is that you see it and you don't go, "Oh, that looks so weird." You're like, "Yeah, this guy's gonna kick ass. He definitely has zaddy vibes like all day." Like,
oh, duh. No, they did such a good job where they created a world where that character fits. Because like, there's a million versions of this adaptation where that would be such a cringe character, but he was fucking awesome. He was hot. He was so cool. I really enjoyed him. I just love that he's not a bad guy, and he's just a little bit of a wild card. He's like there to kill or bring in Luffy, and he's like, no, Luffy needs to be allowed to
like
do his
later
Luffy
on
thing.
in the show or whatever. Like he's kind of like people love him because he's just like like Mihawk. He's not in it very often, full disclosure, but like every time he comes up, people talk about him. Like, yeah, Mihawk's so hot, so good. Like it's amazing. And just I would say if you enjoy this anime, enjoy when he comes up because it's like literally blue moon, and you're like, yeah. And there's a whole story about the seven warlords of the sea I can get into. I'm not going to get into it because it's too long. Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure we'll learn about them as
one of seven.
Yeah, one of seven,
and
right?
And then those emperors, and then there's the dragon god. Like it's just oh my god, so much. The one thing too. So I mean, we talked about Sanji a little bit. What did you think of the whole kind of like this? Is the one setting I really loved. The variety, like the set, like there's so many sets in the show. Yeah.
Oh, it's incredible. No, that's a huge strength of the show, and I think part of why it works is how much they built practically. And like, there's obviously a ton of CG to enhance and stuff, but like that Baratie set is beautiful inside and out, and it's so exciting and it's crazy, but because it's real, like they can interact with it and it feels grounded. I fucking love that.
Yeah, all the sets are really good. The only one I didn't like is I think we touched on like the Kaya, the Usopp episode. That just felt haunted mansion to me, but the ships look good.
A little bit too much.
Settings really good. The villages are awesome and great and everything. So yeah, I mean, I think it just they really executed really well. So I mean, here's the one thing. So the most heartfelt story that hopefully never hit you as much as it hit me again is the Nami story. What did you feel like her arc, like when you get introduced? Because for the first 6 episodes, all you just know that she's kind of a dick. She's goal oriented, hates pirates, and she hates
pirates.
But you never see her motivation until episode 7/8.
I think that's one of those things that I think works probably better in the anime, because in live action, the question I was asking was like, why wouldn't you tell your sister? Why wouldn't you recruit someone? It just felt like a little too silly to where my brain was fighting me a little bit. It made me like her, and I understood it, and I was glad to know that she had a noble cause for everything. And I was also really glad that the village very quickly learned about it, that it wasn't a bunch of bullshit. We hate you, bitch. You get that early on. But I thought that the whole thing kind of falls apart if you look at it a little too much of there's got to be a more pragmatic way
how
to
I
do
kind of
this.
perceived it is that she did it. She didn't tell anyone because she's feels enormous guilt for her mother or adopted mother dying. So she just used it as self-punishment. So she didn't tell anyone. She kind of took this burden and just used it as a way to kind of fuel her desires of stealing, to give her motivations. I'll take this punishment and I'll just dole it out on these other people, because who cares about these pirates? They're bad guys anyways.
Yeah, I think that's that reading is valid. I don't think that the show does an effective job communicating the complexity of that. I feel like it's more, to me, it just felt like we needed people to be mad at her and then not be mad at her. And her sister in particular seemed super egregious, because it's your mom's dead, but now your sister's dead to you. It's almost cruel to not inform
that's
her
just
of
kind
what
of
you're
weird.
doing.
Yeah.
But I see what you're saying, where it's she's got the self-loathing, this guilt in regards to her mother. But I felt that storyline enough, and I was glad that it kind of came to a conclusion the way that it did.
It is what it is. So for me, they nailed it. All the motivations were there. Execution. But the one thing that I felt short, and I kind of wish they had the shot. You'll experience it when you see it, is that when Luffy finds out what she did and the reasons why, in the show, he kind of learns it at night and then goes on top of the building and kind of contemplates the next morning. In the show, it happens all in the same freaking day, which is kind of cool. And it's he just hears it, and you finally see Luffy is a go-lucky guy and having fun and everything. When he hears that and learns it, he just goes dead face. He just goes, oh. And then they kind of screwed up a little bit. And because I didn't get that emotional impact of him, Luffy giving the hat to Nami. Because those it didn't work because what it was supposed to
yeah.
be is like it will be like it was a side, like both of the sides looking at each other. Like this is how it is. Nami's on the ground asking Luffy to help her, and Luffy goes okay and just like gives a hat, and it's supposed to be a side profile of Luffy giving hat to Nami. Nami's on the ground crying, and him just like walking away. In the manga, the anime, they did it so well, but just here, just because of all the quick cuts, I couldn't get the emotional impact. I was just like, yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt watching it, I wasn't sure what the show was trying to make me feel when he hands her or when he puts the hat on her. When you explain it based on the anime, I'm like, that makes more sense. You know, there's like this level to it. But it didn't like bother me, but I was like, this is doing nothing for me that Nami is wearing that.
And then, you know, the one part I do want to kind of finally touch part is talking is the two big fights we kind of touch a little bit is with the Rono, Zora, and Sanji fighting all like kind of like the feelers. Usopp fighting that one guy. Still feels a little bit weird that he died. Kind of get it. The finishing of Sanji with all calling out all the finishing moves and fighting, that's legitimately how he fights. Like that's like, you know, that
nice.
The epic conclusions happening for his fight is when he's calling out those finishing moves, and it's like dead serious. What do you actually think about when characters call out the finishing move names?
I think it works really well in this show because they acknowledge it, and like the fact that Zoro thinks it's really fucking stupid and calls both Luffy and Sanji or gives them a look or whatever, and like they're both like all the badasses call out their finishing moves, and I think that the show handles it well by acknowledging it and dealing with it, and then it works because like I think anime fans would be mad if Luffy wasn't doing gum pistol. And so you get that, but then it doesn't feel stupid.
Yeah.
So I thought it was well
that. And then Gum Gum Pistol always felt a little bit weird because it's just like a single punch, whatever. But here's the two ones that I felt didn't look goofy and they executed it perfectly. Was Gum Gum Gatling. I was just hoping Gatling was a bit more longer. It was just like 2 seconds. In the anime, it just goes on for minutes because he's just like berating the shit out of the people. Yeah, no, literally those like probably like 4 or 5 fights. It's just him like 2 minutes solid, just like beating the shit out of someone, which is, it looks amazing. And then Gum Gum or Battle Axe, just him and his foot just going down.
Yeah.
Those ones, like to me, like afterwards, I'm like, oh, these guys know what they're doing because Gum Gum Gatling looked exactly like the anime and it just looked great. It didn't look goofy and it just looked really badass.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fact that, Battle Axe is kind of like the climactic attack of the whole season. And it felt badass. If I was like, I wasn't like standing up and cheering, but I was like,
I was cheering.
Yeah.
I was like,
hell
yeah, fucking Luffy, get Lord, fucking kick his ass, which is awesome. And so I mean, I think overall, like it was really good. Some differences is that the Kobe and Helmepho, you don't learn their fates until that episode I was talking about, like episode 300 or so. So it's interesting because they're like, Garp is like, I'm going to train you, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, they're really revealing this really early because, they come back fucking like cool. Even Helmepho, when you first meet him in episode 2, like you really hate him. But now, like, if you get caught up, you're like, oh, he's a cool guy. Like, he's in overall redemption arc because you actually do hate him in the anime. You're like, oh, this guy's a dick. Or at least you find out that it was his dad, the more dick.
Yeah, the episodes I saw, he's as bad. He's worse than the live action.
Yeah, one. I mean, I'm really hopeful for this. Unfortunately enough, I think the next episode is going to be Logtown, Grand Line,
and it'll be in like 5 years.
It's going to strikes. Because they did reveal one thing really early is Baroque Works, and I think it'll probably take at least like 3 seasons until you get there. And that whole arc with Baroque Works is probably going to take at least one season if they do it right. So hopefully they do it.
Okay. Yeah, it'll be curious to see. I'm curious to see how many seasons they're planning on milking out of it. Because, like, I don't think they're doing 1,000 episodes, but, like, they could easily do 10 seasons if they wanted to. That's 80
they said
episodes
that
if they
someone did a calculation. It's like, based on the first 8 episodes, how they're just going through it, it'll be, if they want to go currently what One Piece is right now, it'll take 253 episodes.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. Strong doubt. But I think we are both giving this a pretty broad recommendation. I think if you like anime and you're open to, seeing an adaptation, if you like fantasy shows, if you like just like quirky, funny things, if you like action, and you don't need things to be super serious, this is a great watch. Highly recommend. It's not perfect. There'll be things you're like, okay, but overall, I was emotionally engaged and I had a great time.
Anime because it is on Netflix too. Watch it dub. This is my recommendation. So watch it dub, have in the background, and also have a guide on the side of which one is canon and which one is just filler. So because there is at least, I think on Netflix, every time you see TV special, fucking just skip it. Just skip it. Just get rid of it. And just skip it. So skip it. So that's my recommendation. Yeah, because
that's good to know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. Like I said, I started watching the anime and I was enjoying it. It's a little more childish, like not in a bad way, but it's like, more targeted. The humor is more targeted towards kids. And I wasn't enjoying it quite as much as the live action, but I feel like once I get past like the initial hump, all the crazy shit's gonna start happening, and I'll really
like I said, beginning before we chatted, I literally cried, at least like 4 or 5 times. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. That's good. Do you know what is gonna make you cry? Missing this segue to our next topic, which is me briefly telling you about.
So we kind of I knew this was happening, doing this, and that's because context. I love Twisted Metal. It was like the game I pretty much played to the shit in PlayStation, PS2, and it was like the game that I first played with DualShock, like having the rumble in the controller, like the default, which is now standard and everything now. Yeah, so I have a lot of emotional attachments to Twisted Metal.
Yeah. So the show, I remember when the first clip they showed was Anthony Mackie and Sweet Tooth fighting at the Vegas casino, doing that. And I was really worried. It looked really fucking tacky and bad and like trying to be funny, but it wasn't. But I'm glad to tell you
let's
the
go!
show is pretty good. I was like, I'll watch one episode and see. And pretty much right away, I was like, okay, yep, it has figured out a tone and it knows its identity and it sticks to it and it works. Anthony Mackie is so charming. I love him. Stephanie Beatriz, from Rosa from Brooklyn Nine-Nine fame, is also great.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And so the show sort of has like a Zombieland tone. It's sort of, if I'm giving a mean reading, it's sort of like generic post-apocalypse sort of world. Cities are all walled and everyone's in between are bandits or whatever. And there's a bunch of, tribes of different variations of bandits that are just basically a veneer. But what works is you care about the characters. The fan servicey stuff is there. And it's fun and engaging and it works and it's funny when it needs to be. Is it the best show I've ever seen? No, but it's a solid 7. I had a really good time watching it, and I every episode. Yeah. Well, I was excited to watch the next one, and so me and Jono, I think you should watch it because you know more about Twisted Metal than me, and we can talk about it at more length. But as a broad little recommendation, if you've been at all interested in watching Twisted Metal, I would recommend that you watch Twisted Metal.
I'm all for video game adaptations. I'm now 100% glad it's doing better, doing good. At least that kind of genre is doing better. Because I always got sick of like The Rock going, I've made like the best video game adaptations, and he did like Doom, he did fucking Rampage, which is just like an arcade game, to be honest with you, and nothing too crazy. There's no stories. Yeah, it's just a monkey.
There's no story. Who fucking cares?
Yeah, and then Twisted Metal is just like, it's kind of like, it was always a little bit of a weird niche. Like, you know, if you just think of it like literally, you wanted to, it's just a battle royale, literally a battle royale with cars, and each car had different powers. That's pretty much it. And
yeah, and it was goofy.
Axel.
Like I remember the dude who's just like got the two big wheels.
Axel. I think Anthony Mackie's character, I can't remember what his name. He's the cop car one that can shoot missiles. Oh, is that?
No, so he's not the cop car. So I don't know. So he's John Doe. There is a cop character.
Yeah.
The Law. And so I've played Twisted Metal, but I couldn't like tell you more than like the absolute most superficial things about it. And so I'm excited for you to watch it and kind of catch probably more of the
is there magic in it? Oh, no magic.
No magic. So it's pretty grounded post-apocalypse stuff.
Here's the kind of thing is that it's just like the reason why Twisted Metal exists is that whoever wins gets a wish granted. Granted, in the games, it's always kind of like that caveat where it's like they wish for something, but it just doesn't work out the way what it is. It's like, I want to. It's a monkey paw wish. It's exactly it. So it's like, it's that kind of like fun thing. And the reason why you play, because you want to see what the wish happens and how they get kind of fucked over at the end, which is kind of fun. I'll definitely play it.
That's pretty funny. Okay. Yeah, no, that's and so that's kind of all we're going to talk about this week. We already hit our length target. So you can hit us up on X, Jono Tan 86, or Let's Wing It Pod, or reach out to our Gmail at letswingit22@gmail.com. Or if you're feeling so supportive, you can go to our patreon.com/Let's Wing It. You can give it to us directly, help this podcast continue to exist. Just if you don't got the money, you can give us 5 stars on your podcast platform of choice. That helps us. Give us a review.
Subscribe,
and until next week,
and leave a comment.
Yeah.
Bye.